Hello and welcome to Mindset Mentoring for Athletes, Families, and Entrepreneurs, the show where we explore one of the most powerful forces shaping achievement, resilience, relationships, leadership, and well being our mindset. I'm Coach Chuck Barnard, and each week we sit down with people whose experiences, expertise, and stories can teach us something about navigating adversity, developing resilience, and becoming better equipped to thrive through the inevitable challenges of life. Today's conversation takes us directly into that intersection of adversity, achievement, and resilience. What happens when life forces you to go up long before you expected to? What happens when success is preceded by struggle, failure, uncertainty, and moments when quitting would have been the easier choice? More importantly, what can those experiences teach the next generation about becoming resilient enough to handle the enormous pressures they face today? That is where today's conversation begins. So stay tuned for that. Parents today are carrying a weight that most generations never even had to name. Anxiety is rising, depression is rising, and teen suicide is now one of the leading causes of death amongst young people. And here's what really gets said out loud. Parents, you struggle too. You're trying to lead your family in a world that's changed faster than anyone prepares you for, and you love your kids deeply, yet sometimes wonder if what worked for you is enough for them. I'm Coach Chuck Barnhart, and I spent nearly 40 years as an educator and mindset mentor, and I've watched this shift up close. I've also lived it as a father of 4 children. My son Billy and I are launching a family mentorship because transformation doesn't happen in isolation. Teens don't need fixing. Families need leadership, language, and tools that bring them back together. This mentorship is designed for parents and teens walking the journey together, guided by experience, faith, and practical mindset training. And if you're part of the senior generation, a grandparent, a mentor, coach, or trusted voice, I want to ask something of you. Please consider sharing this with the families you know. Sometimes the invitation carries more weight when it comes from someone they trust. And somewhere out there is a family that needs to hear the message. This isn't for everyone, but for the right families, it changes everything. You can learn more by going to thechampionsmindsetmentorship.com. Welcome back. Today's guest is Julia Hurley. Julia is a top 1% real estate broker in Tennessee, a former elected official, a two-time author, and the founder and president of Elite Athletes Management. And yet the resume only tells part of her story. Julia became a mother at just 15 years old. She went on to finish college, become a state elected official, experienced business failure, struggled during the early years of her real estate career, navigated marriage and divorce, and ultimately built tremendous professional success. Today, she takes the resilience developed through those experiences and pours it into the next generation, including the athletes she works with through Elite Athletes Management. Julia believes determination and consistency are essential to surviving adversity, and that while we can educate ourselves about almost anything, some lessons can only truly be understood by living them. Julia, welcome to Mindset Mentoring.
Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate the invitation to be here. It's an honor.
Well, it's when I first got your information and looked at how some of our interests parallel and overlap, I was excited to have you on as a guest. Let me begin by just having you share with my audience just kind of your your upbringing, your little background, just kind of paint that picture on who you are and where you kind of came from.
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty great. About as good as I could myself, to be honest with you. But I'm from a small town in East Tennessee, and that was everything. I mean, that was my entire story right there laid out. And kind of where we are today is growing that mindset work and that attitude work and shaping the future for resilience and perseverance for the next generation. So it's exactly what you said.
You know, in your information that you sent me, and I kind of put that in the introduction there. You had said that you can educate yourself about almost any subject, but really you have to, some things you really need to live or experience to fully learn it. You want to expand on that? Because
Mhm.
that's a really, I think, powerful thought.
Yeah, and I think it's very positive way to look at things. It's difficult when you're in the midst of any struggle, and the biggest example I can give is financial. Obviously, financial struggles are a large portion of what people struggle with daily. And it's a language pattern. It's not the money. Money does not solve problems. It really just causes more. And not understanding the language of money, the language of sales, the language of people who have lived where you want to be, the understanding of that lifestyle can only be experienced through experience. It can only be learned and mastered through experience. And we see this story multiple times. People win the lottery, they mismanage those finances. Money isn't the problem, it's the management of the world that comes with it, the people that come with it, the expectations that come with it. And we see every day in real estate, it's the same conversation. Buyers want to buy more than they can buy because it's the pressure of what's coming from the outside, and they think it's the money. It's not understanding how to use it appropriately. You haven't lived the experience yet. It's athletes getting paid millions of dollars who came from places without millions of dollars, and it's understanding that lived experience on how to manage it and how to manage the expectations that come with it. It's a language and a life that you can only live through experience. So, with just that one example, just money in general, the word money in general comes with its own level of needing to learn and survive and excel through experience.
No, the work I do and the keynote speaking, when I do speaking, I talk about planting possibility. And and in that, I tell the story of when I went out to Tony Robbins training in California. This is right out of college, and I did the firewalk experience. And when I first went out there, you know, I wanted to see it. Like I knew walking on burning coals was possible, like it'd been done for centuries. Intellectually, I knew it was possible, and I wanted to see it, get a little more up close and personal. But when I actually ended up walking across it, I experienced that possibility. It was more than just intellectually knowing it. I actually experienced it, and that took it on a whole nother level. And I think that is one thing that people need to begin to understand is connecting with things that they have done so that they can take those experiences and file the lessons learned from them. So I kind of want to ask you is how, so 15, you become pregnant, you become a mom. That's a lived experience, a pretty powerful one.
It definitely is. It definitely is.
And but you were able to somewhere along the way, and I'd love for you to talk about this, take those experiences and pull the lessons from that you needed to to keep going, like to get yourself through college and do those other things that you did. Where I know, having been in education and have worked with population of students who struggled in school, and teen pregnancy was in that population wasn't. I won't say it was common, but it wasn't uncommon either. But many of them didn't weren't able to do what you did. So I want you to kind of talk about that a little bit and where you think that ability came from. Is there a specific moment? Was there a mentor? How was it you were able to take that life experience and and move forward and have it not kind of derail some of those dreams and goals and all of that?
Well, I won't say that it didn't derail goals and dreams. I mean, other people stand in your way, whether you realize they're in your way or not. So there's a game that we all play that we don't even know we're playing sometimes. There's a chessboard that exists that you're on that you don't even know you're on, and other people own the board, and that's life. And there will always be those who will want you to succeed less than them from judgment alone. Your decisions in your life affect them in a way where you basically live rent free on their chessboard that they've put you on, and you don't know you're there. So I won't say it hasn't affected my life through other people's actions. I will say it has made me persevere more, right? And I think that the challenge in that situation is wanting to see it. I am a firm believer that you will create and recreate the same situation and the same opportunity and the same mistake until you've learned the lesson and changed your behavior. I am a firm believer that the world will put that in front of you at every opportunity it has to teach you something. And a lot of people don't learn from the first mistake. They don't change the behavior or the pattern. They don't see it, or if they're told, they don't believe it. And the same pattern continues to happen. So I would say opening yourself up to the possibility that things happen for a reason, and that's true, they happen for a reason, and you can believe that the reason happened to you, or you can believe that the reason is happening for you. And you are the only person that can determine which one of those it is. And you have to move forward.
Well said. And beliefs are really powerful. And one of the things that um, I think so many people don't understand is that they control the beliefs that they have. So many people think those beliefs were somehow absorbed or passed down to them, that they aren't fully in control of them. And teaching them, because there are ways to deliberately, purposefully change beliefs. And once we begin to help people identify what beliefs they hold that are putting a glass ceiling over or limiting their possibilities or that, and we help them gain ownership of those beliefs and then show them how to change it, it can have a profound impact. Another question I have for you around those times, and, you were talking about these beliefs and all. Um, so you're 15. The father of your child, was he involved from the beginning? And how did all of those kind of dynamics play in? Were you getting help from your family? So how did that um, experience impact the decisions you made, the direction you took, and what you were trying to do as a mother for your child? You want to kind of talk about how that
So
kind of
it's the same conversation. I'll just repeat what I said because it's the exact same thing. Other people will impact your ability to make a decision, even if you don't know they're impacting your ability to make that decision. They do it in business every single day. I do believe through my personal experiences, obviously, and conversations I've overheard, rooms I've been in, that you can remove 99% of doubt from yourself. And there's still going to be 1% of the outside that will impact you in a negative way, even if you aren't impacting yourself that way. There are things that you cannot control. No matter what you do, you will not be able to control it. There will always be a glass ceiling. There will always be a boot on the neck. There will always be someone above you that wants something that you have or wants to keep you from getting what you think you deserve. Those things are true. Those things can be non mutually exclusive. 99% of what you are capable of, however, comes from you. and you are the only person that can move that forward, no matter what. So, perseverance, regardless of outside entities, of their impact around you, has to be a choice that you make every single day. And that's when I referenced previously was the language of it, the language of the money, the language of the room you're in, the language of selling yourself on the idea of success. It is a language pattern, it is a learning pattern that you must believe you are worthy of to continue to move forward. And every challenge I've ever been presented with, there's always going to be that 1%. I bring the 99% to the table. And I want that for myself. I want that for our children. I want that for the next generation. And I'm 44 today. And no matter what challenge I've been given, that 99% inside of me, no matter how tired I am or whatever is happening in my life, that 99% prevails. And I believe that it is something that you truly have to want. You truly have to make yourself achieve it. And regardless of challenges, regardless of what's happening around you, that's your choices to make.
So you took this mindset that you had and you got through college. When did
Mhm.
you get into real estate? Was that right out of college? Was there business in between? Like, and you talked about failures, business or failures, and also those early struggles, particularly financially. And I haven't experienced it, but I understand that real estate can be challenging to get yourself going, right? To kind of build up that momentum. So there could be some real financial challenges during those early years, which you alluded to. So walk us through that kind of that decision making process and how those events began to unfold for you as you're now a young woman out of college with child and beginning to venture into that business or professional world.
So I wish I would have gotten into real estate right out of college. That would have been around 2003, 2004, right at the height of when everybody was making
Yeah.
so much money. That would have been smart. I did not do that. Um, so that would have been a wonderful opportunity. However, after the '08 crash is when I really started to get into my professional life. So I had a little bit of a not sure what I'm going to do after college. I worked at a bank for a year. I want to kind of just test what my limits were in the professional industries. And I couldn't find anything I loved to do. I enjoyed politics, but I didn't love an actual career at that point. So I worked in the banking industry, I worked in the restaurant industry, I worked in the medical field, and I was just going from career to career, trying to really find what lit that spark for me. And then in the after the '08 crash, politics really took a turn for the worse. I mean, politics were as bad as the economy. Everyone was blaming someone else for 2008. The housing crisis was as the worst since the Depression, and we'll see where we're going from there today in today's market. But 2009 gave me the opportunity to really get involved in some political races. Politics had always been a fascination for me. And in 2009, I decided to run for public office and won. And that was really the springboard into finding a passion and then finding the right kind of people to feed the passion that then turned into a career that paid. So, again, people say, follow your dreams, follow your passion, the money will come. It did. The money did not come through politics. However, I did that for a decade. It took me until I was 35 to get into real estate. And that actually did come from a mentor that I met through politics. So someone else recognized a talent for sales, a talent for contracting, a talent for negotiation, and compassion, which I have in droves with for other people. Um, and they said, I think you should get into real estate. And I said, I think you're crazy. I don't want to do that. And they said, I think you're going to be great at it. I said, again, I don't want to do that. And they said, I really implore you to reconsider doing this. And of course, I respected my mentor so much. I said, you know what, for you, I'll do anything. Let's go. And I ended up being one of the best decisions I have ever made in my life. It has catapulted me into financial independency, being able to make choices for my community, for my family, for other people. I have brought other people through real estate in their career, coached them up, made them successful, helped watch them create something for their families and their futures. So, really, the springboard for everything was the 2008 housing crash, which I was not a realtor during that time for. But that really springboarded it.
Something in there about the mentor who you met through politics. And so this idea of networking, of connecting with people is so powerful in so many ways. It's one of the reasons I love doing this show is because I begin to network and connect and get introduced to fascinating people. It's there's I think Julian Simon was an economist who wrote a book. I'm trying to remember the name of the book, but in that book, he said basically the idea is that people are your greatest resource. And I want to get your opinion on that for a minute because that to me is also kind of a mindset related issue, right? Like when you have a mindset that people are a wonderful resource, you can't really find success without having good positive relationships and all that. I would love to get your kind of opinion on that because of the role like this mentor played in guiding you into this field that you ended up beginning to find your success and also, we all experience relationships that don't always aren't always that positive. So I would love to get your feedback on this idea of networking, connecting, and the importance of surrounding yourself with good people.
So, um, people say that all the time. Find the right people. What does that mean? Find good people. What does that mean? Find the right people for you. What does that mean? So, there's a corporate speak where we all speak that language. And if you don't speak that language, you have to learn a new language. Again, this all goes back to language and experience in these spaces. Finding good people means good for you, not good in general, not good in a black and white law and order sense of good, not good and evil good, good for you good. So taking that comment a step further, what's good for you? And I think that people leave that part out. Finding the right people for you, the right people for what you need, the right people for what circumstance you are currently in. Currently in being the part that's left off of the conversation. We make these generalized statements and expect people that have never spoken this language to understand the actual meaning. And taking the time to explain it is droves of time that professionals don't have to give most of the time. The people that need to learn that language can't afford the amount of time for the coaching and mindset shift that it would take to get them there. So, as a public speaker, as a motivational speaker, as a speaker to women and entrepreneurs, we make these blanket statements and then forget that the people listening don't hear what's between the lines. They only hear what you say most of the time. So my mentor explained the why, explained between the lines. It was the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say, of yes, I need to find good people. Well, I think good people don't murder people, don't hit people, don't yell at people, don't do drugs, don't drink. Like what are all the things that you can list off that you think is bad? And we'll start there because that doesn't affect you. What they do can or cannot affect you, right? So we need to find a good person for you, for your situation. And that person may not have all of the attributes and qualities that you deem good. However, they might have something good for the position you are seeking or to learn from or to become. So really delving into what's good for you in a person. and finding those people in specific rooms that you need to be in will get you further than just saying find good people. Does that make sense?
Completely. I talk a lot about really trying to help empower people by getting them to find, create empowerment or encouragement teams. So the whole idea
Oh, I
behind it is
love
kind of
that.
what you were just saying, right? You need people around you who aren't just going to, um, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Just they aren't there to just kind of artificially build you up. There's some pushback sometimes that you need, but in the end, they're going to encourage you and empower you. And sometimes that empowerment means so holding a mirror up and saying, this is what's happening. And that again goes to your point. It's what you need, right? And so finding those people that can do those things are really important and powerful for us to do. And part of that takes significant self-reflection. I think it was either Socrates or Plato who said that the beginning of all wisdom is to know thyself, right? It seems like you were able to begin to do that at a fairly young age, begin to make those kind of
um,
self-reflection. And so go ahead. Did you want
I would say 35 is not very young in the professional world. I will say that, not for women. I would say that. So I would say 35, just starting my career. Had I had this opportunity to have this language pattern presented to me when I was in my teens, or had grown up in a household that had that language pattern, starting in 2003 in real estate would have catapulted me to a much faster and much higher space by 35. So starting at 35 while still in the grand scheme of life is young. In the corporate world and in the business world, 35 is not young at all. Um, so I always knew what I wanted out of my life, per se. I wanted to be successful. I didn't know what that word meant to me or for me. I wanted to be in leadership. I did not know what that meant. I wanted to be someone that was bigger than myself, that contributed something to the community, just bigger than me. I never knew what that meant or how to get there. And it took years of changing mindset and language pattern and understanding other people's language patterns until I started really making very good money in real estate. Only then was I free to find myself. And the only reason the money came was because I learned the language pattern to earn it from others. So I I would be remiss not to point out to people, money does allow you freedom, right? But to obtain that money, there is a balance. There is a language pattern, a mindset shift that you must choose to make, where you set, again, this conversation aside, I guess you could say, of what's good and bad, and make sure that it's good for you. Move that forward, get what you need from that situation so then you can take the time to self reflect and be the best version of yourself for the future.
Yeah. I think I had kind of assumed that part of your journey from the time you get through college until 35, the real estate was you had kind of already begun doing a lot of that self-reflection and all that kind of pushed you on a different path eventually got you that real estate. but but some people never really they never really do that. And then, but you did say, and this is part of what my mission is that if you had gotten those skills as a teenager, how much
Mhm.
better that would have been. And that's part of like what my mission is like I wholeheartedly agree. One of as a father, one of my things was uh all that I knew, I didn't really fully purposefully intentionally help instill that in my children until towards the end of high school, early college, which is still better than a lot of their peers, but
Oh yeah.
but in hindsight, it's like, oh, the things I could have done a little bit earlier, maybe even in middle school. Um, hindsight's 2022, right? But that's part of what I'm trying to push through with people because of the impact it does have in dealing with all these different things, trials and tribulations that come up in life, because you can never avoid those. They say
Right. And
death.
that's your lived experience that you can share. You can say, listen, I'm a father and I provided my family with a pretty gosh darn great life. And I still feel like I didn't do enough. Now that I know what I could have done when they were younger, let me help you experience that. And that's just the cycle of experiences, being able to give that back to the next generation. That's amazing.
Oh, late now. You just, when you said next generation, part of what I really want to talk to you about, because this is where some of our interests seem to overlap, been involved in real estate. But what struck me also was the work you say you're doing with the next generation. Is specifically, you have this elite athletes management company. So talk to me about that and how you got into that and exactly what that does. I was looking at your website and it looks like you're helping young athletes deal with some of the life issues that so many aren't prepared for being an athlete. You're dealing with elite athletes. Talk to them about one, how you got into that, how that kind of came about, and what you're trying to do through that business.
Yeah. So, other athletes, I got into a situation with an athlete many years ago that needed some housing. And I just so happened to be the person that got involved in that situation and provided that housing. And the conversation started from there. It's home insurance, renter's insurance. Do you have a house sitter? Do you have a house cleaner? Do you know somebody that can watch my dog? Do you know somebody that can walk my dog? Do you know somebody that does blank, blank, and blank? And of course, the answer is yes. I've been in real estate for over a decade at that point, and I have a service list a mile long. So, of course, I can provide all those things. Of course, I know somebody that does those things. And then it became, can you help me deal with the situation with my family and my girlfriend and school and my professors and my MBA and I'm getting drafted to the league. Can you help me there?
There you go. I lost you for a minute. You froze up on me there for a minute. So, uh, if you just wanted to kind of summarize real quickly, um, it led from one thing, another question, more questions being asked, and then that's where you kind of froze up. So, you want to just
That's okay.
take it from there again?
Yeah, so got this young man into some housing, and eventually the questions just started coming of, "Hey, can you help me with renter's insurance? Can you help me with car insurance? Can you help me with a pet sitter? Can you help me with a house sitter? Can you help me with a cleaning lady? Can you help me with questions that he had about family and money and investing and relationships and coaches and classes and master's degrees and then drafted to the league and then how do we manage this, and I grew that relationship and then he grew the relationship with other athletes with me, and that's kind of how we ended up with the company.
Well, it's a nice little niche because uh, there's lots of stories out there about particularly young athletes, and now with the name recognition, you know, um, and all the money that they can make at a very young age, just you know, even while they're in college, um, without good advice, that money can disappear real quickly without really, again, right, as you said, one, there's not. I've had other guests on who talk about some of the money issues, things that aren't taught at all about money for high school students. So now all of a sudden, somebody who goes out, it's not just the money thing, it's just life management stuff, right? They can be so lost with all the different demands. So, uh, great niche for you. And somebody who works with athletes from a mindset perspective and performance perspective, it that can have overlap into management itself, but it doesn't do anything to really give them that education that it sounds like your business is really about. So it really fascinated me, um, that little niche when you first said it. Now, is this business? Are you still doing real estate? Is this like how is this
Oh
working?
yeah, I
You've
own a
got
brokerage. Yeah. Yeah. I actually own my own boutique brokerage. So I'm the broker and owner. I am not affiliated with another brand. So my brand is mine. I own that outright. And I have agents that work under me. So yes, we still run the brokerage. My husband and I run the brokerage together. And that works out very well. Our agents are all seasoned agents. They rarely, if ever, have a question on anything, and they sell. And I mean, it runs like clockwork at this point. The athlete management systems are different. That is a very uh, what bespoke service. Now we do have regular services that we provide, right? That's bill pay, CPA, attorneys, financial advisors, investment opportunities in real estate, RAIs. Like we have a multitude of service providers that these kids can choose from for what their specific needs are. And then it's totally up to them if they want extra. Do you want mental health? We have an entire company that we work with that provides mental health for athletes outside of the system they're already in, to make sure that they feel that their conversation is protected. We have bukus of services that we will package together for each athlete to make sure and ensure that they are provided with the safety net of running their own company, which is them, and understanding why we do everything that we do so they can truly run it themselves one day.
yeah, yeah. Just having this conversation got my mind really thinking, and I really find it fascinating how some of these kind of ideas just it happened, right? Like you met this person, but here's the here's the kind of lesson I hope people might get is that there's something about you that you were open to seeing possibility, right? Some people might have had that introduction and met that person, you answer it, but never were able to take that to like, oh, there's a real need here. Oh, there's an opportunity to serve because I am a firm believer that's what true entrepreneurship is about is serving other people. It's not about, you're about trying to find ways to solve problems for other people and help other people, um, you know, have certain needs met. That's what true entrepreneurship is. And there's something about the mindset, I think, of entrepreneurs that help open us to seeing those possibilities. What do you think that was? Like did that was that when you had that conversation with that person, did all when did you realize like, oh, this this could be a real good business here. This could really fulfill a need
Um,
for young people.
well, I'll say it came when other kids started asking me for all these services, and it was starting to take up a good 10, 15 hours a week of my time. I was like, this is a lot of time, you guys. So I wanted to help because they kept asking for help. And the more they asked for things, the more I realized that it's not that I'm not going to say it's not being provided to them because I don't know what is being provided to them. What I know is inside of their own universities and inside of their own sports athletic teams, that's not an athletic coach's responsibility, right? And inside the university's systems, that is also not their responsibility. Their responsibility is to get them a degree, not teach them the life skills. That is not what it is. We all say that's what we want school to be, but that is not what it is. And the mindset shift that goes with that, the energy, the time, the dedication, That is not what the coaching staff is for. They are there to coach a winning team so that that team continues to make money, so that money can be paid to the athletes for winning. So I think that people really mistake what an athlete getting paid in today's society is and what they need, what we want them to have versus what they can have, and whose responsibility is that to give it. And instead of debating whose responsibility it is, I just stepped up and said, I'll do it.
I love that. What are the typical ages of the athletes that you're working with?
So we have 18 to 24 currently. So in betweens, we are debating on whether we need to start this at a high school age. Of course, that's a different conversation. You have minors at that point. We always work with the parents. We never leave parents out of the conversation. That's their children, that is their future. We want to make sure that the parents are as involved as they want to be in the process of what we teach, and we include them every step of the way.
For you. Good for you. I mean, again, just the whole concept of what you're talking about. There's there's so many ways I could go with this, but I don't want to kind of get off my general topic. I have it's, I started another podcast with a couple other coaches. It's more baseball oriented, but it's talking about youth sports and how youth sports have changed and all the things that are going on and the big money that is out there. You know, it's a youth sports is $1 billion industry now. It's really in many ways I think getting a little bit out of hand, but that's another
It's been out of
conversation.
hand, but it's been out of hand. And until the mindset shifts around that, and that has to come from the parents and the players. The parents and the players have to stand up and say, we are no longer doing this. We are no longer participating this way. They are the true way that things change. And until they band together and change it, it's going to stay the same.
Agree with that wholeheartedly. That's kind of part of what we are trying to do with that podcast and begin to ask different questions, have some conversations that parents I think need to have um, to be better informed, to kind of step back and think about what's going on because there's so much being thrown at them, and I don't think they always take that time to kind of step back. Um, I do want to
One of
ask,
the best
yeah,
similes between what we're talking about now in sports that I can give, playing off that comment you just made, is the conversation with athletes and parents of whom they are trusting their children, right? With whom are you trusting your children? With whom are you trusting their future? And a lot of the times it goes back to everything we've talked about is who are you surrounding yourself with? Okay. And again, this all goes back to money. It will always go back to money because that is something that we all understand that we need, but we need to understand the language behind it. If the number one person that is coaching your kid is a independently wealthy entrepreneur with multi-billion-dollar corporations and he's just coaching that team for fun because that's what he likes to do on weekends, by all means, please take his advice. By all means, please take his recommendations. And I love that. I think that would be a great introduction for you and your child. But if the person that you are taking advice from is not an entrepreneur, is not a business owner, is not in a C-suite level multi six-figure deal for themselves, I would love for you to consider who you are getting your advice from and who you are surrounding yourself and your children with. They are great coaches. I have no doubt. I have no doubt they are great coaches. They are great trainers. They are great 7-on-7s. They are great at whatever it is they are doing, but they should not be the determining factor for who you sign for management, who you sign for representation for an agent, who you sign as a CPA, who you sign as a financial advisor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because experience matters. And you must surround yourself with people who have the experience either you want your children to have or they've already had.
Yeah, well said. You know, one of the things, living in Maine, followed closely Cooper Flagg, you know, big basketball star coming out of Maine. He went down to a private school in Florida, number one draft pick in the NBA, all that. Well, one of the things that seems to be, at least, you know, as an outside observer, was that he's gotten some really good advice. Parents have really helped keep him grounded. All the money that was thrown at him at such a young age doesn't seem to have, um, boy, what's the word I'm looking for? Tainted him or changed him.
Impact.
Impact, yeah, you know, it hasn't negatively impacted him. Uh, and you said it for a little while now, is that it seems like he's gotten the right people around him, and I think his parents were a significant part of that. So uh, I, I I think this conversation is important for people to hear on a lot of different levels. There's something else I wanted to ask you about in this conversation about young people. So you just said they're basically college aged, young adults is what you're dealing with here. But in again, some of the information you shared with me, you had said something about um, you know, young people not really being able to have an off switch, right? There's so much going on. And I kind of wonder about that, particularly with these like athletes that you're dealing with. And I know in the world I had when I was working with teenagers, middle school, they're just being bombarded with so much. So you're dealing with some young athletes who it seems like it could even be more, particularly social media, right? And needing to get out
See,
there,
my
needing
athletes don't even deal with it. They don't even deal with it. We hire companies to deal with their social media. We respond to messages. We respond to business inquiries. People hit up these athletes all the time, like, "Hey, man, I got gold chains. I got diamond studded. I'm gonna have a pop up shop with $3,000 shirts. Come hang." So and so did it. Oh, we just ignore it. The athletes we work with understand the value of not being on social media. So we hire companies that will manage that for them, make their videos for them, post for them, respond to messages for them, and we completely clear their mind of that. Most of the interaction that athletes get are from other athletes. That is their world, you know. It's very limited amount of time they actually get to spend outside of their sport, especially in college. And we want to make the best of that time. So we find that our athletes are typically in the facility at 5:30 a.m. and they typically leave the facility at 8:30 p.m. So everything in between either revolves around food, weightlifting, practice schedule, class schedule, learning plays, studying, and the time they get off between is one off day a week and then enough time in the evening to relax, possibly play a video game and visit with their significant other or families. So they're very regimented. Our athletes in today's society are more regimented than CEOs. I mean, they are focused and they are getting paid to be focused and they understand that. So social media for athletes, they don't respond themselves. And we have people that do that for them. It's just not, they don't read the negativity. They don't let it in. It's again, the mindset. You have to know what you're capable of and you have to believe in yourself to get it done.
something I don't think people fully appreciate, again, because it's outside our experience. How much,
Excuse me.
when we're
Sorry.
talking the big time, especially big time college football, college basketball in particular, those are two of the obvious ones. How much of their life is controlled? How much of it is? So that, you know, schedule just kind of laid out where they are in their bubble for virtually the entire day. Uh, I don't, we might hear that, but I don't think we can fully appreciate what that's like because we can't experience it. Um, and
Right.
it's a world that, uh, I'm a big college football fan, college basketball fan. We're we're part of that by dropping all that money down, right? Spending all that money on this person's jersey and that and this paraphernalia and all the things that go into it from a fan's perspective is creating that world that is
It's creating the bubble.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's almost as if we don't want them to live in what we've created for them, and we can't have it both ways. We're either going to create the bubble and view what's happening in the bubble and be part of it on our own way, or we're going to burst that bubble and we won't have it. And I think that our love of sports in America is our love of multiple sports for that matter, but mostly American football has created an opportunity for businesses. It has created an opportunity for athlete success. It has created an opportunity for generational wealth. It has created an opportunity for athletes literally starting freshman year of college to become multimillionaires and retire if they so choose by the time they leave college. And we have supported that and we are growing that. And I think, again, exactly what you coach and exactly what I pair my athletes with coaches for is making sure that that mindset and that capability is understood and the right and good people for them in their position are provided and that their families have that access to that same opportunity. So everything that you do, everything that we do is very much along the lines of making sure these athletes are protected.
There's so many more things I want to kind of delve in this direction, but I also noticed my clock, so we're nearing the end of the time. So, uh, and this happens sometimes. I love the conversations that get going, and then can see potential tangencies, and like, oh man, I would love to keep going with that. And uh, one of the questions I have is, you know, as we think about moving forward for audience for those of us who are coaches for what have you, from your perspective, from your lens, what what do you think some of the biggest needs are for helping empowering young people to avoid some of the pitfalls that we've experienced? Like you had said earlier, if you had these lessons when you were a teenager, some of these athletes who are being thrown in this bubble without really, I don't know that I don't even know if it's possible to fully understand the world they're heading into. Um, I do believe, though, even if you don't fully understand the world you're heading into, there are some skills we can teach that once you enter it, you can fall back on to go, oh, here's my tool to kind of deal with this. That's kind of part of what my mission is. I would love to hear your response on what you think we are missing or what we can do to help that
I
next
don't think we're
generation.
missing anything. I think that we need time. I don't think time is missing. We all have the same amount of time. So I'm going to say we're missing time, but I would like to say that we are mismanaging the time that we have available to give and contribute back these conversations to the younger generation. I think that we are in an economy currently where, again, I'm 44, so my age group should be mentoring the next generation, and my age group is on average still barely struggling to afford housing. So what time are we able to actually give this next generation to bring them into that conversation in that world? Like, I am so blessed. I am so blessed to have the amount of time through my real estate brokerage and selling real estate that I can give it. I'm so blessed. But not everybody has that. I would say creating systems that other let me say this, that 1% of that 100% we talked about earlier, they're always going to be there. And if you don't play by specific rules on the board you don't even know you're on, you may not be able to do an impact how you would like. So keeping that part in mind, teaching them that lesson would be a great lesson to learn. Of you may be an expert in what you do, you may be wonderful at what you do, you may have the time to give it, but you may along the way come across people that don't want you doing it. Learning how to deal with that situation will probably be more beneficial in the long run to a lot of younger people than anything. I think the Robert Greene's book, The 48 Laws of Power, is a fantastic nod to how to manage that. Now, we can debate whether we should have to manage that or not. It doesn't matter. It is what it is. And we need to talk about reality versus what we want and learning how to manage reality. Those are tools that need to be shared. So, gifting self help books, easy to read books. Fierce Conversations by Shauna Scott is a good read on how to understand and create corporate conversation in a corporate setting. And it's an easy read. Gifting disc profile tests, Enneagram tests, strength finders tests, anything these kids can take for 15, 20 minutes to learn something about themselves will open the door to questions they may have in the future. So equipping them with knowledge of themselves first would be where I would spend a majority of my time with limited time.
One of the things I have struggled with in the delivery of some of the work I do is the importance of what you just said, teaching about time. And one of the things I emphasize and open up with is we all, when we say we don't have enough time, that's a misnomer because we all have 1,440 minutes a day. What we are saying when we say we don't have enough time is I don't want to prioritize the time for that particular thing. And that might be okay. That might be a legitimate thing to do.
I don't think it's a matter of wanting to. I'll go back to what we talked about earlier. I think it's a matter of understanding how. And when you already know how, you can say, but this is an FTT, this is a time block, and this is how you do that. And on the other end, that language is saying, why? I don't understand. There is a language pattern that is missing. There is a up and comings, I guess you could say, of when I say you need to time block your day, you understand exactly what I mean by that. People in the professional world understand exactly what I mean by efficiency, effectiveness, time blocking. It sounds great when I say it, and then someone that's never had it and never been able to do it and never been in a situation where it's been supported has no idea what I'm saying or why. So we're missing the why in a lot of conversations.
That there's certainly not an understanding of how and how to manage your time. So that's part of what needs to be taught. But then there's also that piece about prioritizing and figuring out what is most important, what's the most valuable to me. Because push comes to shove, you can't always say yes to every opportunity that comes down. You have to make priority decisions. And so that whole decision making process as well of not just organizing the time, but deciding what goes into those blocks is something that I know we do not do well with young people. And then when they get out into the world, it's a real challenge. So I'm glad
Mm-hmm.
we were able to bring that piece up too. And with that, I think we're going to wrap up this conversation. I appreciate you taking the time. It was a wonderful conversation. There's so much more we could have said and gone into. So again, thank you so much
Well, we
for
will jump on your sports podcast together at some point. We'll talk sports, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
of that. Thank you so much. Oh boy, this happens a lot to me, right? We get into a conversation and I could keep talking and talking. I hope that all of you listeners out there have been able to take what you need to take from the conversation. There are nuggets there that some of you may have needed and somebody else didn't. So I really hope that you are able to take whatever piece that you needed and apply that to your own life, right? It's again one thing having the knowledge, but it's applying it that is so incredibly valuable. And that's part of again what I want to kind of emphasize about with the mentoring process. And um, there are things, particular methodologies and stuff that can be trained, but oftentimes you need somebody there to help you guide you through the process for doing that. And that's where mentoring can really come in. So I would encourage you to go out and check out my mindset mentoring programs, the champions mindsetmentoring.com, and learn more about some of those opportunities. Until next time, I encourage you to go out there and live life to its fullest.